Hello everyone, Chen Thomas here. Just going to go over some Wing Chun hands, okay? And so first of all, kind of what you see on our on guard stance is a man sao, or like probing hand, right? Spearing hand, and a wu sao, which is kind of our side palm protective hand, right? And what's neat is each of these hands can turn into different tools, from where they're at, right? And so what's nice is even the man sao can jump into a bu sao, can jump into a tan sao, it can turn into a gan sao, right? It can turn into a punch, it can turn into a pak, right? And so that's where we get this like almost like Swiss Army knife idea, where basically any of our tools can come out of this forward hand or the rear hand coming forward, right? And so again, if we extend too far with these tools, right, and it becomes more of an extension or a straight strike, then what happens is it leaves all this open, okay? Because basically I can strike, well, somebody could strike underneath that and hit me at the same time. They can bring in a strike right on the inside of that and hit me. Where if I keep it not extended all the way and I bring that elbow in, then I'm covering my center. And it needs to be covered more than just a wu sao. A lot of Wing Chun people, they have this wu sao hand back here and they rely on that defensively, when really if a strike gets into the wu sao, you're almost too late anyway. You should be doing something different with this hand or with your wu sao, so you don't need to depend on this wu sao being the second line of defense, right? So it just means that you're not doing something right if you're having to depend on that wu sao, okay? So again, the main hands of Wing Chun, the man sao, wu sao on the center line, right? And then we have the Wing Chun punches, the straight punch. And again, some lineages, they really extend that punch out, really extend it. And in our lineage, we still have that, I'd say 6 inches of power, but we don't extend all the way. We keep it slightly bent so we can have that elbow in a little bit, right? And that forearm so we can protect ourselves, okay? So even on our chain punch, where we have this structure and this structure, because the second hand comes back to that part of the forearm when we punch. And a lot of people, they do the chain punch, but they straighten it, and again, that leaves this wide open to get hit, okay? So that's why it just needs to just be here. And it's just that 4 to 6 inches of the power, and it's not really coming from the shoulder, it's the elbow. We're really, on most of our Wing Chun tools, we're actually striking with the elbow, and this is like an extension of the elbow, whatever our hand may be, whether it's a palm or one of our different tools like bu sao, tan sao. Even defensively, we're really kind of striking with the elbow, even when we're putting something defensively out there, like a tan sao or like a folk sao. We're kind of still punching with the elbow. And so then that's what we do basically in Wing Chun. And we try to cover our areas that are open, right? And so the other idea is that if we're not extending all the way, like the Liang Ting people are kind of extending to kind of cover this idea that there might be an opening, right? That there might be an opening on each side. Well, the idea is that even when we're extended with that punch, because we don't have that full extension, we still have room to change the tool, right? To change the tool And so for this area here, that might be left open because we have this area closed off, right? So if something comes up here, then we just angle with the jam sao downward, and then that closes this whole area down here. So the only thing left open is this area, okay, on both sides, this area. And so then that's why from the punch, we leap forward into a bu sao, or we do a tan sao to the side to close that off. We can use a bong sao, but it would have to be kind of a high bong sao with the wu sao together, okay? Because normally the bong sao is when we're in close and arms are going everywhere, the bong sao helps kind of trap and kind of clear the area. It's not so much just used to block a punch at the end of somebody's range, you know. It's more or less we're already in and we have hands going everywhere, and then that bong sao can come up and kind of clear, even if it has to yield, right? So again, we talked about the punch, the straight punch. We have palms that we also use in Wing Chun. And again, that's punching with the elbow and just extending the palm, okay? And so then that's our straight palm. And then we also have side palms. Now, for the most part, if we're palming up high towards the head of a person, then it's usually vertical palm. Sometimes we will use a vertical palm into the chest, but for the most part, and this is on the wooden dummy as well, is we'll do the upper vertical palm for the head, but everything down below is a side palm. Because of course, when you do a vertical palm and it gets on somebody's body, sometimes they'll yield with the force and they'll trap your palm and they'll bend downward and it kind of locks the hand, right? But if you do a horizontal palm, it doesn't trap that hand. You can slide it out pretty easily, okay? So we have these palm strikes, right? We have these strikes with the fists. Then we have, even though bu sao is considered penetrating fingers, attacking fingers, it's really this bone, that part of the bone that we're using. And so what I find is instead of being on the end of our range, I like to move a little bit closer, like another 4 inches closer, and then I can use all the angles of my forearm bones in the different tools, including the folk sao. So instead of a folk sao riding on the end of an arm or the middle of an arm, this folk sao is almost touching the person, right? Because that folk sao can be a weapon as well. And so can tan sao. You're using that part of the forearm. Maybe you're not using the palm, the beggar's palm, right, of the tan sao to move something, but you're actually using that, like say against the clavicle, okay? So there's parts of the forearm that we can use to attack, and the same thing with the bong sao. The bong sao is actually a really good attack offensively as well. You know, we can move in and shift with that. Okay, so we have again the punches, the palm strikes, then we have the bu sao, then we have the tan sao, right? Then we have the bong sao, the wing arm. Then we have the folk sao. Now folk sao can be done forward, and it's kind of a clinging attack, but that part of the arm can also be used to hit. And then it also can be used sideways, where we use part of the wrist, part of the hand, part of the forearm, and we use that strike. And then that one can go up, can strike the throat, it can strike the side of the jaw, right? And it moves like an uppercut. It's really quite hard to see. And so in our Silam Tao, we're coming back with that Wu Sao, and the folk Sao is launched just like an uppercut, right into the opponent. So, you know, a punch can come and we can kind of absorb that punch with the wusao and then follow their own arm and jam their arm back into them and hit them with a folksao. So the folksao is an actual tool, just like bong, just like ton, you know, just like our punch. It's not just this conceptual floppy idea of just sticking and writing, okay? But it actually has a form that is powerful when it's locked in a position. Okay, so we have folksao and then we have jomsao. Jomsao, which is kind of this double movement, but it's usually kind of a downward idea because then you can get your elbow power behind it. Okay, it can be used just forward because it's this elbow power and this extension here with the jomsao. Then there's something called gumsao, which is like a jamming palm. And we like to use that on an opponent to jam their arm in, and it's usually a double. And so when I say singles and doubles, single is when we're doing one tool at a time. Doubles is when we're doing two at a time. Okay. So I think we covered, you know, we have paksao, which is kind of going across and towards to kind of move things out of the way. And so we can do a paksao with a punch, right? And then the gumsao is like a paksao, but it's extended more and it's a jamming hand, okay? And then we have doubles, and what doubles are is we are using two tools at one time, usually same time, like a tonsao punch or a busao punch, right? Or a foxao punch. Foxao is basically a lansao, which is like an obstructing arm that comes forward. And it's kind of a chopping hand, okay? Where a busao comes forward and it has more of the angle here, and it's using that same part of the forearm. So there's a busao, and then there's a foxao, right? Okay, so we talked about, you know, most of the tools, the doubles again, they'll say tan da, or the tan with the strike, with a punch, busao with a punch, foxao with a punch, right? Sometimes we'll do a jomsao low with a punch, or that gumsao low with a punch, okay? And then we have, you know, from the wooden dummy, there's this idea of tonsao is usually spreading out this way, okay? But when we come in, then it's considered more of a gansao because it's kind of an inside chop, right? So we have a gansao that's upper and a gansao that's lower. And so then we have a double gansao, which is here, that we use. That's a double. And then we also have something called a kwansao, which is a bongsao that's low and a tonsao put together. Okay, and then that's called a kwansao. So these are some of the double hands where we use them together, okay, as opposed to singles, which is where we're just using a single tool, right, kind of one at a time, okay, where doubles are both at the same time. And so it might be trapping or jamming and hitting. It might be moving their attack off center and hitting, okay? Attacking two different levels at the same time. So just some fun Wing Chun stuff. Thanks for watching.